Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that's been making waves in the accounting world, and that's machine learning.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just a buzzword at this point.
Absolutely. So to help us unpack all of this, we've got a really insightful article from MA and CO accountants called Introduction to Machine Learning for Accountants.
And it was just published today, October 31st, 2024. So very fresh perspective.
Super fresh. So get ready to learn because this deep dive is all about understanding how machine learning is changing the game for accountants, even if you're already pretty tech savvy.
Right. And it's interesting because machine learning is transforming a lot of industries right now. But I think its impact on accounting is especially fascinating
I agree.
because you've got this field that's all about data,
hmm
and then you have a technology that's basically built to analyze data in ways that we've never been able to before. It's like a perfect match.
Yeah, it really is. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I think it's worth taking a step back and defining what we're talking about here. The article does a great job of laying this out, explaining that machine learning, or ML for short, is a type of AI. But it's not just about computers following some pre-programmed rules. It's about them actually learning from data to find those hidden patterns and trends, kind of like how we learn from experience, right?
Exactly. It's all about recognizing patterns, making connections, and then using that information to make predictions or decisions.
Right. And that's huge for accountants because think about it, you work with massive amounts of data every day. So being able to see those connections in financial statements, transactions, invoices, that's a game changer.
It really is. And I think the article makes a great analogy, calling machine learning a smart assistant for accountants.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
And it really is. It's like having this extra set of eyes that can help you spot things you might have missed or even predict what might happen in the future based on past data.
And the coolest part is that these systems get smarter over time. So the more data they process, the more accurate they become.
Exactly. It's like they're constantly learning and improving. Every invoice they process, every transaction they analyze makes them better at their job.
It's like having a teammate who's always leveling up.
Exactly.
So let's jump into some specifics. The article outlines a bunch of different ways machine learning is already being used in accounting, and one of the big ones that stood out to me is automated bookkeeping and data entry.
Oh, yeah. I can already hear the collective sigh of relief from accountants everywhere. Those tasks can be incredibly time-consuming and, let's face it, not the most exciting part of the job.
Right. Nobody got into accounting to spend hours manually inputting data.
Exactly. But machine learning can automate a lot of that. So the article gave this example of a tool that was able to process 1,000 invoices and categorize them with like 90% accuracy.
Wow, 90% right out of the gate. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it only gets better from there as it learns and adapts. So you can imagine the impact this has on efficiency, especially for smaller accounting firms. It frees up so much time for accountants to focus on more strategic, higher value tasks.
That's a great point. It's not just about doing things faster, it's about being able to focus on those tasks that really require human expertise and judgment. Speaking of which, another area where machine learning is proving super valuable is in fraud detection.
Oh, absolutely. It's like having an early warning system that's constantly scanning for anything suspicious.
And the article gives a pretty compelling example. An ML model was able to flag 200 potentially fraudulent transactions out of 10,000.
And out of those 200, 50 turned out to be actual cases of fraud. Now think about trying to do that manually, reviewing thousands of transactions to try and find those needles in a haystack. It would be a nightmare, and you're bound to miss some.
Right. And the article mentions a detection rate of over 83% in that example, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's way more efficient and accurate than traditional methods. So it's really about giving businesses that peace of mind.
Absolutely. Now, what I find really fascinating is the potential of machine learning for predictive analytics. The article uses this great example of predicting future sales based on historical data. Let's say you have 5 years of data that shows a steady 5% growth rate. An ML model can use that to estimate future sales, and in their example, it reached £210,000.
That's the kind of insight that can completely change how businesses make decisions. Instead of just relying on gut feelings or basic trend lines, they can use these data-driven predictions to create more accurate budgets, plan for investments, and get a much better handle on their overall financial health.
It's about moving from reactive to proactive financial management. And of course, we can't forget about auditing, right? That's like the cornerstone of accounting. And that's getting a pretty significant upgrade thanks to machine learning. Traditionally, auditors would sample a small percentage of transactions to look for errors. But now, the article highlights how machine learning lets them analyze entire ledgers, which is mind-blowing to me.
It is. I mean, the article gave this example of 50,000 transactions, and the ML system was able to flag 300 anomalies that traditional sampling methods probably would have missed.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It is.
Yeah,
And it means audits can be much more comprehensive and accurate, which is obviously a good thing for everyone involved.
definitely. And I was super curious about what they had to say about financial forecasting. It seems like there's this whole world of techniques like ARIMA, CNN, and LSTM that can be combined to create these super powerful forecasting models.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how each of these techniques brings its own strengths. So, like, ARIMA is great for capturing those underlying patterns in time series data. CNNs excel at finding complex relationships. And then you have LSTMs, which are designed to handle long-term dependencies. So when you combine them all together, you get this hybrid model that can really boost the accuracy of your forecasts.
That's incredible, especially when you're dealing with something as complex as financial data. And having more accurate forecasts obviously means better decisions about cash flow, investments, and your overall financial strategy, right?
Absolutely. It's all about having the right information at your fingertips so you can make those informed decisions.
So before we dive into some of the potential challenges and how to actually get started with machine learning and accounting, I think it's worth highlighting the main benefits that the article keeps coming back to, which are increased accuracy, efficiency, and new insights. Those seem to be the big three that make machine learning so transformative for accountants.
They are. It's about minimizing human error, automating those tedious tasks, and then being able to see those patterns in the data that might not be obvious to the human eye.
Yeah.
And when you put those all together, it really empowers accountants to work smarter, not harder.
Right. It's about becoming more than just a number cruncher. You're a strategic advisor, a data-driven decision maker, a true partner to your clients.
Exactly.
So that's all super exciting. But of course, with any new technology, there are always going to be some challenges. What are some potential pitfalls that we need to be aware of?
Well, one of the biggest ones is data quality. It's kind of like that saying garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right. You can have the most sophisticated machine learning model in the world, but if you're feeding it bad data.
Exactly. If the data is biased, incomplete, inaccurate, the results are not going to be reliable. And that can lead to some pretty bad decisions.
So it's not just about adopting the technology, it's about using it responsibly and making sure that the data you're feeding it is high quality.
Exactly. And another challenge is integration. A lot of times, these new machine learning tools don't always play nicely with existing accounting software.
Yeah, that makes sense. Seamless integration is super important.
It is. You don't want to end up with errors, delays, or a ton of frustration just because your tools aren't communicating properly.
Right, you're creating more problems than you're solving at that point. And I imagine there's also a pretty steep learning curve for a lot of accountants who might not be familiar with these concepts and tools.
Oh, absolutely. Not everyone's going to become a data scientist overnight.
Right, it takes time and effort to get comfortable with these new technologies.
It does. But the good news is there are so many resources available to help. Online courses, professional certifications, tons of stuff out there to help accountants upskill and get up to speed with machine learning.
That's great. It sounds like there's a real opportunity for accountants to become leaders in this space. So you mentioned the learning curve, and the article actually gives some pretty practical advice on how accountants can get started with machine learning. What are some of the key takeaways there?
Well, it really emphasized starting with the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Getting a solid grasp of the basic concepts, like what is supervised learning, what's unsupervised learning, things like that.
Yeah, those are important building blocks.
They are. And there are tons of resources available online to help people learn those concepts.
Yeah.
Platforms like Coursera, ADX, they offer some really great courses for anyone who wants to kind of dive in.
Awesome. And they also talk about the importance of getting hands-on experience with those common machine learning tools, right? Like actually playing around with them to see how they work.
Exactly. It's one thing to read about it, but it's another thing to actually use it. So they recommend tools like Python and scikit-learn. Those are kind of industry standards. And there are so many tutorials and examples online that can walk you through how to use them with real financial data.
So it's really about getting your hands dirty and experimenting.
Exactly. The more you work with these tools, the more comfortable you'll become and the more you'll start to see the possibilities.
And they also suggest looking into certifications like the CMA, which offers training in data analytics and technology.
Yeah, those certifications can be really valuable, especially if you want to show potential employers that you're serious about this stuff and you're staying ahead of the curve.
Makes sense. So let's circle back to auditing for a moment. The article has a whole section dedicated to machine learning and auditing, and I was really intrigued by how they break down the evolving role of the auditor in this new landscape.
Right. It's not about replacing auditors. It's about giving them better tools to do their job.
Exactly. And they revisit that example we talked about earlier, analyzing a ledger with 50,000 transactions. Instead of just manually checking a small sample, machine learning allows auditors to analyze the entire data set.
Yeah. And remember, in that example, the ML system found 300 anomalies. That's a game changer for audit quality and risk assessment.
It really is. So it's about shifting the auditor's focus away from those manual, time-consuming tasks and towards designing effective procedures and interpreting the results generated by these machine learning tools. It's a more strategic, more insightful role.
Absolutely. And it ultimately provides deeper assurance to everyone involved.
And then the article shifts gears a bit and dives into a real-world case study to show the tangible benefits of machine learning in action. It focuses on this company that was struggling with cash flow predictions, which was impacting their budgeting and decision-making.
They were relying on those traditional forecasting methods that just weren't cutting it anymore.
Right. So they decided to implement a hybrid forecasting model using a combination of ARAMA and CNN LSTM techniques. Remember how we talked about the power of combining different machine learning techniques? Well, this is a perfect example of that in action.
Yeah. And the results were pretty amazing. The hybrid model significantly outperformed their previous methods, which led to more accurate predictions and better business decisions overall. It's a clear example of how machine learning can really move the needle for organizations.
That's great. And then the article wraps up by looking ahead to the future, exploring the implications of machine learning for the accounting profession as a whole. What kind of future are they painting?
Well, they envision a future where accountants are freed from a lot of those manual, repetitive tasks, and they can really focus on those higher value activities. Things like providing strategic advice to clients, analyzing trends, and helping businesses make those data-driven decisions.
That's the kind of future I think a lot of accountants would be excited about, right? It's about becoming a trusted advisor, a strategic partner, not just the person who keeps the books.
Exactly. But they also highlight the importance of corporate governance as these machine learning tools become more prevalent. It's about making sure they're being used ethically, responsibly, and in a way that aligns with the organization's values.
Right. We need to make sure that these tools are working for us, not against us, and that they're being used in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly. And they also touch on this really interesting potential for more interdisciplinary work. So you can imagine accountants with machine learning expertise collaborating with other departments, like marketing or HR.
Yeah. Helping them leverage these tools as well.
Exactly. It's about accountants becoming these key players in driving digital transformation across their organizations.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of machine learning for accountants, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that machine learning is not about replacing accountants. It's about empowering them. It's about taking the profession to the next level and really freeing up time and mental bandwidth to focus on the things that truly matter. Strategy, analysis, helping clients navigate this increasingly complex financial landscape.
It's about becoming more than just a number cruncher. It's about being a visionary, a strategist, a guide in this new era of data-driven decision-making.
Exactly. And the journey starts with understanding the power of machine learning and taking those first steps to embrace its potential.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired and want to delve deeper into this topic, what are some resources they can explore?
Well, the article itself is a great starting point. It's very clear, concise, and full of valuable information. And they actually provide links to some additional resources on their website, things like case studies, guides on integrating technology into accounting practices. Lots of good stuff there.
Awesome. We'll definitely include those links in the show notes for easy access. And listeners should definitely check out MA and CO Accountants blog. They've got some really great content on there.
Yeah, they're a fantastic resource for staying up to date on all the latest trends and insights in accounting and technology.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive. It's clear that machine learning is transforming the accounting landscape in some pretty remarkable ways.
It really is. And for accountants, it's a call to action, a call to embrace these technologies, to upskill, to innovate, and to really shape the future of the profession.
It's a future filled with potential and opportunity. And I, for one, am excited to see where this journey takes us.
Me too. It's going to be fascinating to watch how this all unfolds.
And if you found this deep dive helpful, please share it with a colleague or anyone who's curious about the impact of machine learning on the accounting world.
Yeah, spread the knowledge. Let's help each other thrive in this exciting new era of accounting.
Until next time, happy accounting. And may your insights be as sharp as your algorithms.
And may your data be ever in your favor.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, it's really about shifting that focus from just recording what happened in the past to actually analyzing the present and shaping the future.
Absolutely. And for our listeners who are maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by all this talk of machine learning, just remember it's a journey, not a sprint.
Right. You don't have to become a data scientist overnight.
Exactly.
Start small.
Yeah.
Just explore the resources that are out there. Focus on building your understanding one step at a time.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. There's this whole community of accountants out there who are all kind of on this same journey together. So connect with each other, share your experiences, learn from one another.
Exactly. Collaboration and knowledge sharing are so important in this space.
Absolutely. And just remember that the goal here is not to be replaced by machines. It's about working alongside them, using their strengths to enhance our own expertise and create something truly remarkable.
Exactly. It's all about that human-machine collaboration. That's where the real magic happens.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of machine learning for accountants.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
It's been an incredible journey, and I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to explore this exciting new frontier.
I hope so, too. It's a really exciting time to be in accounting.
It really is. So until next time, happy accounting, everyone. And may your insights be as sharp as your algorithms.
And may your data be ever in your favor.
That's a wrap.